Artists tend to get lost in the idea that their art is not what they want it to be, or that the vision in their head cannot be displayed within the art that they create. And I completely understand the struggle, and I've certainly felt it many times, but I think as long as you achieve your vision enough, you can find a new vision within that sure, you didn't get your vision exactly correct, but in doing so, you find new things to enjoy about your work. And what I mean by this is you create a piece of art that isn't exactly like the vision in your head, but out of doing so, there are new things that you did that you could see as mistakes or as flaws. I didn't get this part right, and it's not exactly like what I had in my head, but it's different, so maybe it's different in a good way. You don't necessarily have to look at it in that light of, okay, this is a bad thing because it's not exactly like what the vision in my head is. You're never going to be able to achieve that. You can achieve it to your best ability, but the end product is always going to be different. And so, if you harp over all of the smallest details of not being able to get your vision 100% correct out of the image in your head, then you are destined to be sad and depressed. So, I think it's best to build a mindset with your art of, I am going to look at this for what it is rather than what it isn't. And when we look at things in this way, we can see the positive aspects of our work much more clear, and we can enjoy the process of creating our work much more. Because when you look at your work for what attributes it does have, rather than what attributes you've built up in your head and heavily idealized, then you are going to be much more happy because you are finding good in something that exists. You're finding good in something that's right in front of you, rather than sitting there and being sad over these abstract ideas that simply exist within your mind. It's perfectionism taken to its absolute extreme. It's wanting to just make every single detail perfect, which is futile. Perfection does not exist. You cannot create art 100% the way it is in your mind, and you can't create it 100% perfect. There are always mishaps. There are always things that can go wrong and will go wrong. But even with that being the case, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, because 10 out of 10s still exist. You think those artists out there made that art 100% the way that they wanted it to be? No, they made mistakes, and we can see those mistakes, and we know that those mistakes exist, not only in the realm of their own intentions, but also in the purview of our tastes, and how we view the world, and how the consensus views the world. And so, when we look at art, and we can say this has flaws, but we still give it a 10, that is an indicator of other values existing within those flaws, that those flaws have transcended themselves into a greater attribute, into something that is positive, if you will. And so, when we look at it like this, those flaws aren't necessarily even flaws anymore. They were looked at that way by the artist because it didn't turn out exactly the way that they wanted to, but you found an aesthetic in it. For example, maybe the watercolor messed up on your painting or something, and now it can be seen as a grimy, grungy aesthetic because the thing got messed up. And that's a new positive thing. That's a new value that can be derived from your work. Sure, it wasn't the intended value that you were trying to elicit, but it nonetheless is a value of some form. So perspective matters a lot. If you look at it with the right perspective, you're always going to be able to find something good out of it. And I think when you make your own videos or when you make your own art, instead of looking at it and thinking, this isn't what I wanted to create, or this isn't what was in my head, think about what's right in front of you, think about what's actually there, and think about what are the good parts of this, and then try to move forward and improve yourself from there.